So now, so we're on. Let me explain something for a while in Japanese. Okay. どうも、皆さんこんばんは、センです。そしてコホストの大室さんです。Hi. Hey, Cats. Hi. How's it How you doing?
What's up?
Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And are you ready for that?
Yeah.
今日はですね、発音の、僕たちが English Hangout 101でやってきた発音の、最終回ということで、今日は、総まとめ的に今までやってきたことと、あとはそれから今までやってきたことで新たに気づいたこととかですね、そういうところをちょっと2人で、1時間にわたっていろいろお話ししたいなと思ってます。で、基本大室さんは英語で、僕がちょっとそれを受けて、日本語でちょっとこう、フォローアップというか説明をするような形で進行していきたいと思いますので、1時間どうぞ最終回なので、もし何か質問とかあればですね、どんどんインタラクティブにやっていきたいので、なんか僕たちもその都度質問なるべく答えていくようにしますので、ぜひぜひハングアウト、English Hangout 101のハッシュタグをつけて、ぜひ質問いただければと思います。Okay, so Cats, so let's get started.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is like a final one.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me? I'm getting over a cold, so my voice might not be the best right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I've made some material again, so I'm going to share it with you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Let me start by giving you this. Boom. Right.
Wow.
So this is today's. Okay. And today I have a bit of an agenda, so I gotta get through this. So first we're gonna do some review. And anyone trying to contact me on Facebook? Yeah. Okay. So remember, first we talked about syllables. First time we talked about syllables. Syllables are very important with English.
Right.
It's the very basic unit of sound in English. And here's what we need to know. Syllables are a unit of sound. Each syllable has a lifetime, which means it has a start and an end. The syllable can change shape from start to end. A syllable always has a single vowel sound. And it can have optional consonants before and after. Okay, let me talk about what that means.
Okay.
All right, so what does this mean? A syllable is one single sound. So some words are very short and they only have one sound, one syllable. Like the word of or the word and. Okay. There's only one vowel and that whole sound represents the entire word. Some words have more than one, like the word lifetime. It's life and time. And the best way to notice this, and this is the way that they teach in schools, is you can clap out the sounds. So lifetime, lifetime. Right? Consonant, consonant. Figure out where your vowels are. Optional. Syllable. And the number of syllables has to be correct. This is something you cannot get wrong. This is something that will either make your English understood or not understood. Right.
This is a basic part of
very basic part of
being able to speak English, right? Okay, go on. Yeah.
We've probably talked about this so many times that anybody who's been listening to our show probably should be familiar with that already. One thing I said on the slide here. Oh, and if anyone has questions, please ask on Twitter.
Right. Anytime.
Yes, please. Okay. So notice here I have said that there's optional consonants before and after. I say optional because not all syllables have a consonant before or after. Some words like I, they have no consonants. Or sorry, right? Some have consonants only before, like do only has the D sound and it's before do, to. And some have a consonant only after, like at and on. And then some have consonants before and after, like cat or dog. And then also I say consonants plural because you can have more than one consonant before or more than one consonant after or both. And that is called a consonant blend. And consonant blends are things like this. Like blog, snow, street. Street has 3 in front of the E, right? End, act, first. First has 3 at the end of the syllable. And then drink. Drink has a blend at the beginning and at the end. Trust, grasp. So in this way, you can have blends, which is more than one consonant with no vowel between.
All right.
Okay. Now, if you feel like you need to explain any of this, please go ahead and do that.
Right. 今、大室さんが言っているのは、コンソネントブレンズでこう、日本語にはない、一つのですね、例えば、ストリートとか、今、大室さんが例で出してくれたので言うと、ブログとか、なんていうのかな、前、僕らがハングアウトの中で言ってた例えば、ドラムとか、ドラムみたいに、日本語でドラムみたいなリズムにならずに、ドラでも一つのブレンドされた音としてドラムになる。そこをしっかり守らないと、ナチュラルな英語にはなかなか響きが近づかないっていうことですよね。
Yeah, and the very important thing is it's very easy to fall into the trap of accidentally putting an extra vowel between. Like, for example, blog in Japanese is burogu, right? If you say burogu, that is too many syllables in English. And chances are you're not going to be understood. People will not understand if you say burogu. You have to say blog, one sound.
And that might be based on the katakana sound in Japanese, right?
That's right, yeah.
So that's why we tend to make mistakes.
Yep.
例えばブログとかっていうのも、日本語のカタカナをベースにブログとかストリートとかっていうふうに考えてしまうと、やっぱりシラブル、余計なシラブルが増えてしまって、結局ネイティブの人というか、英語に馴染みがある人からすると、響きが全然違うので、リズムが違うから、全然もともと理解されないということが起こってしまうので、そこはもう厳格に守るようにしましょうということですね。Okay, 大村さん、yes, this is gone.
Alright, so I made a page for this, and we actually spent some time last time on pitfalls. So the very important thing is not every consonant has a vowel after it. That's the hard part with Japanese. If you're used to Japanese, it's difficult because in Japanese, pretty much every consonant, there's some exceptions, but pretty much every consonant has a vowel.
Right.
So there's 2 cases. Number 1 is a syllable can end in a consonant. These examples here: if, at, on, up, dog, man, boat, rate. In all these cases, you have a consonant at the end of a syllable, and you don't have a vowel after that, right? Right. If you put a vowel after it, for example, if you are saying if, but you say, if or at or something like that, right? You have an extra vowel, and somebody will try to think of a word that sounds like that, and they can't, so they don't know what you're saying. And you shouldn't really think it's your fault. If you're used to Japanese, you are used to Japanese, and you are used to putting a vowel after everything. But when you're getting used to English, you have to get used to English. You don't always have that vowel.
Right.
And then the second case is when the syllable has a consonant blend. And the blends are the ones we just talked about. So,
Right.
All right. A couple more examples. Clay, right?
Clay.
Don't say kool-aid. You say clay.
Clay.
Street. Arm. This is at the end. Arm. And then opt.
Opt.
Yeah. These are all consonant blends, and we covered these a long time ago.
Wow.
So if you would like, you can go back to these English Hangout episodes and watch them again. And
Number 1, Number 5.
Yes, you can review them.
ちょうどこの、今、大室さんがスライドで作ってくれてる第1回と第5回で調べると、その Consonant Blends Pitfalls っていうのは、カバーしてるので、もし時間があったら、ぜひ後で見返していただければ、何回も見返していただける内容になっているので、ぜひ見てみてください。Okay. Go on.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions up until now, or do you have anything you want to bring up, someone?
So far we don't have any questions.
Okay. Was there anything that you saw so far that you want to talk about?
そうですね。なんてやっぱり僕自身も気をつけないといけないなと思うのがやっぱりその日本語をベースに考えたりとか、やっぱりそれこそそのリズムとかですよね。がやっぱり日本語に慣れてるだけにやっぱりさっき言ったけど日本語を喋ってる時から英語を喋ってる時にちょっと感覚を変えてそのシラブルをしっかり正確にまずはね再現していくというかっていうことはすごく大事かな。だからとりあえずカタカナのことはやっぱりちょっと英語を話してる時ってのは忘れないといけないな。だからそこをベースに考えてたら多分永遠にね大村さんが言うそのベースの音であるリズムであるシラブルが合わない限りはやっぱりねブログではじゃなるのでそこは
Yeah, if you can come up with a way to write like take notes, and you can use katakana if you want. If you can come up with a way to indicate that you only want the consonant, then maybe that's okay.
Right. まあその一つの音とかね、そういうちょっとしたところはカタカナでフォローというか補佐的に使えるけども、まあ最終的に全部をカバーはできないので、ここはもう英語と割り切ってねやっていけたらなと思っております。
Okay, so let's go on to the next review topic. Okay, so the next topic is vowels. Vowels, okay?
Yeah.
So vowels, remember I covered them using the types.
Right. We did.
Yep. Okay. English can be simplified into these 14 vowels. There's 6 long vowels, 6 short vowels, and 2 diphthongs. And the long vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and U. You okay over there?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. And the 6 short vowels are A, E, A, and And then there's 2 diphthongs. And diphthongs they're 2 kind of vowel sounds combined into one. So oi and ow. Now technically, the long A and the long I, technically those are diphthongs as well. But in school you don't learn them that way because they're easier to be taught as long vowels because they sound exactly like the letters of the alphabet. So the long vowels sound like the letters of the alphabet, A, E, I, O, U. The short vowels don't. You have to remember what they sound like. They're A, E, A, and A. Then the only 2 that are left are the 2 diphthongs, the oi and ow. Okay?
Right.
And one other thing is often, about the schwa. You've heard of the schwa. Yeah, the schwa is like the very weak, unaccented vowel.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually pretty much most of the time just use the short U sound for that. Okay. Technically, they're very, like, strictly speaking, they're different.
Mm-hmm.
But I know many dictionaries, or especially the American Heritage Dictionary, which is where these symbols come from.
Mm-hmm.
The American Heritage Dictionary does not differentiate between the A and A.
Mm-hmm.
They're very similar.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar to how it does not distinguish between A and A. They're very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you say cot, like a cot is like a baby's bed. It's called a cot.
Caught. Mm-hmm.
And then there's caught, which is the past tense of to catch. So caught and caught.
Mm-hmm.
Strictly speaking, they're two separate vowels.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you need to care about that so much in order to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And in school, we never learn the difference. You don't have to worry about it. Okay.
Right.
So to be able to speak normally you only need these 14.
Mm-hmm. So we shouldn't be strict about it.
You shouldn't get too stressed over them.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So, any questions so far? Okay,
so let me explain what you said before, just now in Japanese. 今、大室さんが言ってくれてたのは、まずここの母音の部分ですよね。で、なんていうの、長母音、短母音っていうのかな。長い母音と短い母音と、あとここの最後2つに、おい、おうっていう、その2つ重なったものと、もう一個さっき大室さんが言ってた、その手話ですね。いわゆる、なんだか、曖昧母音とかって言われる、about とかの、about とかの、その、ね、手話をカバーする。あとは、その細かく厳密に言うと、すごく似てる音とかはあるけれども、そこはまずそんなにフォーカスせずに、今、大室さんが書いてくれた表、そこをちょっとベースに、母音っていうのはやっていくといいんじゃないかっていうことですね。
Yep. Yeah.
And what do you think is the hardest one for the Japanese people?
Oh, of these?
Uh-huh.
Let me bring the slide up again. There's actually a few that are kind of difficult. This one seems to be very difficult. Is like to talk.
Talk.
Yeah. Or walk.
Rock.
Walk. Yeah. Also, I didn't cover what happens to these when you have the letter R attached to them. Put the letter R on them, all of these really change. And that's a whole nother story that we actually have to cover.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, these are the ones you have to worry about. And this one, this is definitely the hardest. And maybe this one also. This is like book. And cook.
Cook.
Put. Yeah.
Put.
Yeah. The others. And this one also. This one is a very.
Yeah. That's one thing I've been misunderstood.
Yeah. It's a very common one I hear. If fish.
Yeah, fish.
Yeah. It's actually close to the Japanese not too far, because that actually becomes like this. Right? It's not For you have to open your mouth pretty wide to the side. Right? Yeah, I should probably show you. Okay, so for you open your mouth like this. The other one for it's like You really have to open your mouth. So elephant, right? Elephant. Then if. Do not say if.
Right. That's what I said.
And that's a very common thing I hear because that's it's just the way you learn it in Japan. Is you use I and it's not correct. You have to use I.
Right. これが僕も、大村さんとのハングアウトの中で気づかされたこととか、初めに多分これが、なんだ僕の中で、あれそうなのと思ったのは、多分大村さんがゲストで出てくれた時に、なんかちょうどハロウィンの、トリックオアトリートとかの言った時に、僕がトリックって言った時に、で、そのトリックはなんか変だよって言われて、いや、なんでトリックって、ね、トリックって書いてるからトリックじゃないのって。だから、そこでもう僕が I サウンド、だから、さっき大村さんが言った if とかも、if って僕はずっと思ってたけど、思ってるよりも A に近いんですよね。if とか、フィッシュだったらフィッシュじゃなくてフィッシュとか、そういう、なんて言うんだろう、母音とかに関して言うと、なんかこう、発音ができる以前に、勘違いをそもそもしてることっていうのが、非常にまずは多い。だから逆に言うとそこを知らないと、逆にちょっともったいないなというか、知れば知るだけで修正ができるので、っていうのも、非常にこのハングアウトを通して僕が学んだことかなとは思いますけどね。
I'm going to cover one more thing about practicing because what often happens is, excuse me,
Yeah.
While you're practicing these individual words like if or fish or something, you can say them. But once you start trying to put them into sentences, you will go back to your old habit. You've experienced that before, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that happens just because it takes a long time to fix your habits, right? And so I want to go over a possible way to help you with that situation later in this talk. So we'll get there in a few minutes. Okay, so let me go back to the slides. Okay, so the vowels, we covered them.
Second one.
Yeah, in our June episode.
ここの母音はちょうどハングアウト101第2回でカバーしているので、ぜひそこをチェックしてみてください。母音は結構ね、大事なのでね。まあ全部大事ですけど、今日やってること。Okay, so what's next?
Consonants.
Okay.
So consonants, there are two kinds of consonants. There's voiced consonants and unvoiced consonants. Sorry about my voice.
That's good.
And this EG, by the way, EG means for example.
EG.
Yeah. See this EG? This means for example. Okay. So these sounds like d, j, g, b, z, v, the, and j. These sounds here, they're voiced because if you say them, you will notice that your vocal cords are vibrating. If you put your hand on your vocal cords when you say these, you'll notice that, like d. Yeah, you get a vibration.
Right.
And as opposed to these unvoiced ones like t, ch, right? The instant you say these sounds, you don't get that vibration.
No.
You will get the vibration when you say the vowel that's attached to it. Right? Like if you say like tu, then you'll get a vibration on the u part, but not the t.
Right. Exactly.
In fact, these line up like the d and the t. You have your mouth in the same configuration, but if you voice it, you get a d, and if you unvoice it, you get a t. Right? Same here. J and ch. Yeah, they're the same configuration.
口の位置というか、ポジションというか、configuration.
Right. And that's why this th here, the and f, there's two of these. And there's no good way in English to write them, so often you'll see the th with italics, like slanted text, diagonal. And this means use the voiced version. Okay? And then obviously we have our favorite, which is the L's and R's. You have questions. No, you just No, no, they're comments. Sorry.
Mm.
Yeah, we just need practice on the L's and R's.
Right.
Now, back when we did consonants a few times ago, and when we did those consonants, we did this L and R quiz kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. That's what I made a mistake.
Yeah. And L and R is very difficult for Japanese people. Again, this is not your fault because you're not used to it, and you just need practice listening.
Right.
You just need a lot of it.
Yeah, and try to distinguish.
Yeah. Because most Japanese people, the L's and R's sound exactly the same to you, and like I said, it's not your fault. It's just the way your ears aren't trained to understand the difference.
I'm glad to hear that. That's not my fault.
Right, it's not your fault. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I'll give you the episode number so you can go back and view this later. And you can take the L and R quiz again. Okay. So the fourth topic is liaison.
Liaison.
Liaison is when you are trying to connect words together. And we have some things to talk about for that. I often bring this up, but you need to use the path of least resistance. I'll talk about this again later, but least resistance means, and let me get myself back on the screen. Okay, so for path of least resistance, you're going to, when you're speaking English, your mouth is going to be moving quickly from one position to another position, very quickly.
Right.
1 second you have to be making a D sound like D. Then the next second you have to make an R sound, which makes you have to pull your tongue all the way back.
Right.
So when you go from D to R, you're going to go dra. Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You should drink some water.
Yeah, I'm drinking water. So my example with that is usually the word 100. 100. If you try to say 100, you are going through all the positions individually. 100, right? But the positions of your mouth, the positions that your mouth go through, the positions that your mouth goes through, it's very awkward for your mouth to jump around like that. So what you do is you want to make your mouth take shortcuts. So go 100. Okay. And native speakers do this naturally because they've done it so many times.
Right. Just getting used to it. Right.
Right. Imagine a person first trying to learn to drive. Okay. When a person's trying to learn to drive, they have to do so many things at once. They have to look straight ahead. They have to hold the steering wheel. They have to, hit the pedal with their feet. All these things happen all at the same time. And when they first do it, it feels really clunky, like clumsy. But as you get used to it, you can do it more smoothly, right? So it's the same thing. You want to just get yourself used to it. Keep on speaking. And when you get to the path that requires the least resistance, the smoothest path you can make, then that's going to sound natural.
Wow, yeah, that's good. When it comes to being able to speak English naturally, so all it takes is a little getting used to, and we should get used to that, get used to it, and we should make it our second nature.
Second nature,
yes.
Yeah.
今大室さんが言ってたことっていうのは結局その音にしっかり慣れて、あと結局なんていうかそのネイティブスピーカーが なんでそれができるかというと、もう単純にその回数をこなしてきて慣れてきただけだと。だから結局その運転のドライブと一緒で、その初めのうちはたくさん気をつけてやらないことか、ね、やらないといけないことたくさんあるけれども、それがどんどんどんどん、慣れることによって、セカンネイチャーって言って、こうなんだろうね、こう、どんどんどんどんその、自分たちが無意識にできる、技術に近づいてくると。だからまあ発音も結局、そこと一緒なので、どんどんどんどん、まあ、let's get used to speaking English as often as possible という感じで。
Yeah. Right. I think learning to drive or learning to ride a bicycle, very great example. Or even like if you have a child and you've ever tried to teach a child to walk. Same thing.
Right. All it takes is a little getting used to.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to go on with this. There's examples here. Okay. I only have a few examples here. If you want more, just go back and watch the old episode. But the first one here, a car. Yeah, a car, an apple, the bus, the airplane. In school, you learn that you change the article here. You put an N at the end here. This is a car, and you say an apple. And the reason you put this N here is so that you can say this in one breath. If you didn't, you would have to stop. You would have to say a apple. And that's very uncomfortable for English speakers. You don't like to have to stop. So by adding this consonant here, you can say an apple.
An apple.
Right. And same thing here. This is the bus. If you said the, then it's the airplane, and you have to stop, right?
Right.
But by saying the airplane, the airplane, the E sound, at the very end of the E sound, your mouth is in a very, it's in a position that's very ready to say the sound of the letter Y. So you're going to say the airplane.
The
airplane, yeah. And that's why you change the pronunciation of the to the in front of a vowel. And that's the reason. Right? And if you know the reason, then you can do it naturally. Right? So it's a car, an apple, the bus, the airplane. And imagine if you didn't do that, it would be a car, an apple, which is
very
awkward.
Blocky.
Yeah. The bus, the airplane. Again, that's awkward. So a car, an apple, the bus, the airplane.
Oh, sounds very smooth.
Native speakers do this completely without thinking. This too. I actually sometimes get a question about, for example, and I'm going to type it into here, but an example would be something like,
Take your time, take your time.
Yeah. It would be something that starts with a U. You know what I mean? So if something starts with a vowel sound, that's all that matters. In American English, for example, the word this, in American English, you don't pronounce this H.
Herb.
It's herb, right?
Herb, right.
So you say an herb.
An herb. Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Do not say a herb, because that makes you stop. This is completely based on what it sounds like when you say it. It's an herb. Same as the herb.
Right?
It's based on what you say, not what you write. It's based on what you say. Okay.
And does it happen only in American English?
Yeah, because
Does it happen in
British English you say the H here. You say herb.
A herb. The herb.
Yeah, you say a herb and the herb.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good example. Good one.
Yeah.
Oh. 今ちょうど、So, let me explain what you said.
Yes.
今、大村さんが言ってたのは、その漢詞にあとかあんとかざとかずとかになるのは、なんていうの、法則性とかというよりは、結局音として言いやすいか言いにくいかっていうことがベースになってるので、今ちょうど、ね、大室さんが日本語で言うとこのハーブの例を出してくれていますけど、アメリカ英語ではハーブが herb って言ってH を発音しないと。だから、ハーブって書いてるけど、音としては herb なので、アメリカ英語で書くときは an herb になると。で、イギリス英語で発音するときは a herb になると。だから結局、文字がどうとかっていうより、音をベースに漢詞の2種類っていうのは、分かれてるんだよっていうことを今、大室さんが説明してくれてますね。Okay, sorry, just go on.
Okay, all right. And I thought of another one for the other case. This one, you write the letter U.
Mm-hmm.
This is a vowel, but when you pronounce it, it's union, right?
Union. Mm-hmm.
That's not a vowel sound at the beginning. It's a y. So it's a union. Don't go like this.
A union.
Right. You don't do that. It's like this. A union.
Union.
And then again, this is the union.
The union.
Yeah. Again, it's based completely on. It's based completely on what it sounds like.
Right.
Okay. Other examples here. This, want to and going to. I put these here under liaison because of how you kind of clump these together, but wanna, gonna, things like that. Good evening. Notice that this is good and this is evening, but you kind of stick these together and say good evening.
Good evening.
And then this one, high up and do it. High, think of what your mouth is doing at the end of this. High, I. It's in a shape very ready to say the letter Y again. So you just take advantage of that and go high up.
Right.
High up. You can almost pretend there's a Y in here. High up.
High up.
And then do it, same thing. Ooh, your mouth is pointed just like you're going to say the letter W. So think of it like this. Do it.
Do it.
Yeah. We did a lot of these when we did the liaison one, and that was number 3, which we did in July. Yeah. So you can go back and look at these again.
Okay. Wow. That's good. Yeah, we did many.
Yeah. So, yeah, any questions up until this point, or do you have anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, we got some comments, and someone says your pronunciation is very easy to understand and very clear.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And someone in America says, so your hangout makes me feel like I'm in a class taking English, English class, and it's just very, cool. Very happy.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. Okay, so let's go on. I have just a few more things to cover. And this is number 5, emphasis.
Emphasis.
Yeah, and when I did this, there was a page like this that I wrote, and I made a PDF of this also. Ooh, sorry about that. This one. Okay, and there's a PDF of this. I'll tweet the address of it again right now. Okay, so I just tweeted it. Anyone can go to this address. I just tweeted it. I tweeted it with the hashtag the E haングアウト101.
101. Thanks. Yeah. I retweeted.
Okay, nice. You can go there and view this page. We spent an entire episode going through examples of some of these. And we don't have time to do all those, so so we'll have to have you guys go back and look at that episode. But the most important thing about this is that every single sentence in English has a main idea.
Right.
Every single sentence has a main idea.
Which you really want to say.
Right. Something you always want to say. So because of that, you are always going to emphasize one word, or actually, I think one syllable of one word of that entire sentence. Okay. If you imagine each sentence as being like a play, you know, when you have a play, you're going to have like the beginning, you're going to have like increasing action, you're going to have like tension building up, and then you're going to have a climactic point. You're going to have a climax. Then you have action that falls. You're going to do that in every English sentence.
Wow.
It sounds a little dramatic, but even if you take a random sentence I said, okay, so in that sentence, even if you take a random sentence I said, notice random sentence I emphasized.
Right.
Even if you take a random sentence I said. See, it's when the pitch of my voice goes up, because that's where I want your attention. The listener, I want the listener to understand that that's what I want to say in the sentence.
Right. And it's very easy to understand which you really want to say in the sentence, right?
I gave an example when we did this talk about, actually, let me see if I can bring that one up, because that one was pretty interesting. If you might remember, I gave an example where there was a sentence where where different word is highlighted.
Right. I remember. I do. Right.
Yeah. If I can, I can't find it. Here we are. Okay, so here's an example. Which one is it? Sorry, here it is. So this is directly out of the one we did that day. So, hello, David. Did you sell? Sorry. Hello, David. Did you sell a book yesterday at the used bookstore? Now, I have these with an underline on the emphasized words, just so that you have, so that it's easy for you to see what's going to be emphasized. But the answer is, did you sell a book? So the answer is, no, I bought a book. Right? Bought is what you're trying to emphasize here. Now, hello, David. Did Joe buy a book yesterday? And no, I bought a book yesterday. Right? It's not Joe, but it's I bought a book. And this one, it's hello, David. Are you going to buy a book tonight? But it's not tonight. It's no, I bought a book yesterday. See, in each of these questions, the word that answers the question is highlighted, right? It has that underline. This one, did you sell? So the answer is no, I bought. Did Joe buy? So the answer is no, I bought, right? And then, was it tonight? So no, it was yesterday. The word that answers the question is emphasized. But the words are exactly the same, you see. No, I bought a book yesterday. No, I bought a book yesterday. No, I bought a book yesterday. The words are identical, but they mean things that are different because of the word that you're emphasizing. And that's really what I want to talk about in this section.
Right. Identical.
Yeah.
要するにそこの、なんていうの、問いに対して答えたいこと、強調したいことが違うだけで、今そのアイデンティカルって言ってたけど、全部答えの文章は一緒なんですよね。全く一緒。でも、そこの強調したい文章によって、その I bought なのか、I bought なのか、いつ買ったのか、そういうことによって文章の強調するポイントが違ってくると。それがなかなかちょっと日本語には、まあ、日本語でも多少あるっちゃあるけど、特に英語の場合では、やっぱりその、さっき言ったその、何を言いたいのか、それぞれの文章にはそれぞれ言いたいこと、ポイントが必ずあるので、 そこが強くなる。自然に強くなるところを、だから感覚的になるまで落とさないと、考えないとそこが強くならないとかっていうのでは、やっぱりまだセカンドネイチャーではないと思うので、そこまでやっぱりしっかり練習しないといけない。で、文章を、さっき大村さんもちょっと日本語でのあそこで書いたけど、その文章自体を感じれないとというか、意味がそもそもね、これが自分が言いたいんだっていうことがないと、そもそもその強調できないので、そこも意味をしっかり理解して伝えるということも大事かなとは思いますね。これすごい非常にいい例ですね。
Yeah, one other thing I want to talk about is that in Japanese, if you were doing this, for example, you can actually omit everything else. In Japanese, you only have to say katta.
Right.
Here, you only have to say
Yeah, make it short, right?
yeah, ore yatta or something. Right. You don't have to say the rest of the sentence. In English, you do say the rest of you say the whole sentence, right? Yeah. So that's one difference. Right?
日本語だとね、勝ったとか、昨日とか、その単語だけで、だからまあそのね、ハイコンテクストとかローコンテクストとか言われるけど、日本語だとそうやって短くできたりするけど、英語は文章としてね、答えることがまずは基本なので、どこを強調するかっていうのが大事っていうことですね。Okay, thanks for sharing that idea.
So, yeah, so that's all with all the review topics. All right, and so the next section is about tips and thoughts.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for bearing with us, everybody who's listening. But yeah, we just covered everything from the first
Right.
5 episodes.
Yeah, we covered, and indeed there are a lot of things, and many things, right?
Okay, so rhythm. This is one thing that I've been noticing recently. We didn't cover these in the first 5 episodes, but something that I've more increasingly noticed is something that some learners could use help with. The biggest thing here is just make your short sounds shorter.
Right.
And that really makes a difference. Sorry, I don't have an example sentence. But if you were saying, let me just type it here.
So like function words or like something like that.
Yeah. So, so this sentence, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Okay. Who knows what this sentence is? You know what this sentence is?
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Yeah. What's special about this sentence?
What's special? The quick brown jumps over.
Yeah. What's special about this sentence is that it contains every letter of the alphabet.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's actually a sentence that probably every elementary school kid in America will learn. Yeah. It contains every letter of the alphabet.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay. So the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Okay. Now, you got to divide this into syllables. But luckily, every single word here is one syllable. Every single one is one syllable, okay? So let's think about which of these you have to say shorter and which of these are not shorter.
I think shorter ones are the.
Yeah.
The quick brown jumps over and the second the.
Yeah.
Of course, the quick brown fox jumps over. Actually,
jumps.
Yeah, jumps over.
Yeah.
Jumps over.
So the is going to be short.
Right.
This the is also short.
Right.
This can be short, right?
Jumps over.
Oh, actually, sorry. Lazy is 2 syllables. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. But let's just make these 2 syllables shorter. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, right? Notice how much more rhythmical that just got. Like if you ignore all this and just say, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Right?
It's very monotonous.
Yeah, it's right. Or you can say, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. And just by doing that, it helps give the sentence some structure. Right? So this rhythm thing is very important. It helps your English become understood.
Right.
Because it gives your sentence some structure. People are used to listening to English where words that are like this and like this are short.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So what is it? How we can get used to the rhythm? So do you have any ideas?
Well, yeah, the easiest way is probably to read along with an audiobook.
Like what's called shadowing.
You could do that, but listen to an audiobook or listen to somebody read something to you. Make sure you find a person who knows what they're doing when they read it, because I've heard that some audiobooks are not very good.
Oh.
Right. But find a person who has good pronunciation.
Like you.
Okay. Yeah, I can't read every book out there, though. Yeah, but find someone who has good pronunciation. Find some audiobooks and listen. And very important is you read along. So you're listening, and you're also reading the book. Follow along as the reader reads. I might have mentioned this before on this show, but I remember when I was in 1st or 2nd grade, we would have some time after lunch every day where the teacher just reads from a novel. Right?
Wow.
And every student just reads along. They read silently. They don't speak. Each student just follows, and the teacher reads aloud. And everybody's just listening and following. And I think that really helps the students. It helps with the rhythm and also helps with the emphasis. Because the teacher will know how to emphasize which word is important. They emphasize things. Also in English, when you have certain kinds of things like subordinate clauses, like if you say, the man who had just returned from school or something. Notice that you say the man who had just returned from school, the who had just returned from school is going to be in a lower tone than the man. And then you have the rest of the sentence. Maybe the man who had just returned from school picked up the phone, right? So the man picked up the phone is your original tone of your sentence. The man picked up the phone. But the man who had just returned from school picked up the phone. See?
Get back.
Right. The teacher will read like that for you, and you're following along.
On purpose. Right.
That's right.
So that
the
guys can understand.
Yeah, the teacher might emphasize that a little bit stronger, just so that the students pick that up. But it's something that is very important. I think reading along, reading silently, and listening to the audiobook is a very good idea. That'll help you both with the rhythm and with the emphasis.
And that will build up our basic understand.
Yep.
Right. 今、大村さんが言ってたそのサボルネットクローズっていうのは、いわゆる従属説というか、the man who なんとかなんとかとかっていうその説明部分になるとことかっていうのは自然にちょっとイントネーションが落ちたりして、で、もう一回元の文章が上がるときはまた元のイントネーションに戻ったりして、そういうふうにその強調するとことかっていうのはネイティブスピーカーっていうのは自然に意味を考えて、意味を感じて、そこも変わってるので、やっぱりその慎重に聞くことで、で、それに合わせて声を出してみることで、どんどんその感覚が慣れていく。だからそういう経験が、まずはやっぱりその語学っていうのは大事なんじゃないかということですね。やっぱり音を通して、耳を通して、あとは自分もしっかり口を使ってそこにこう追随していくというか、ただこう受け身でいるんじゃなくて、常に自分も発して、真似をしてっていうことがすごく大事なんじゃないかなと思います。で、それが今、大室さんが実際に言ってたものですね。Okay.
Okay. I'm hoping that people are understanding my English.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good.
Mm.
Okay, so let's go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, practice phrases and not just words.
Right.
Okay.
Pause.
This one I was talking about earlier when we were doing the vowels,
Mm.
is that you're often going to forget.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some examples here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to practice the word going, right, it's really not that useful to just practice going by itself. You can actually use it in a sentence or something. So I'm gonna. That's a very common way of using this, right? There's gonna be I'm gonna, who's gonna, he's gonna. But you want to use it in phrases, and you want to practice pronouncing the entire phrase. That way, when you actually speak, the phrase is definitely going to come up. And when that happens, your we call it muscle memory, but your mouth, the muscles in your mouth are sort of going to remember this pattern.
Right, muscle memory.
Okay, so like her. Right. This is her, but can you pronounce this?
I've known her.
Right. You would say I've known her. You don't really say the H.
I've known her. I've known her.
Right. If you just always practice this as her, when you come across something like this, you're not going to be able to say it. So you have to practice this phrase, I've known her.
The H sound should be like dropped.
Right.
I've known her. I've known her.
I've seen her. I've met her. Anything like that. So you want to find phrases and practice the phrases. Another one here. Don't. But when you say this, it's why don't you?
Why don't you?
Right. You're going to end up with this ch sound here because of this. But if you only practice don't and you only practice you individually, you're not going to be able to say why don't you?
Right.
Even simple ones like if. I don't know if, or something like that.
Right.
If you don't do that and you still have your bad habit of saying e,
if.
Yeah, don't say if. But if you only practice this if individually, then when it appears inside of your sentence, you're not going to be able to react fast enough. So you want to practice words and phrases as much as you can.
Right. Exactly. 今ちょうど大室さんが言ってたのは、結局最終的になんていうんだろう、これ僕も前から思ってたことなんですけど、結局発音の本とかですね、発音のウェブサイトとかを見ても、最終的に単語の個々の発音をどう言うかっていうところで、その言及が終わってることが多いんですよね。でも実際にそのプラクティカルな、実際に使って発音がどう向上していくのかっていう話になったときは、やっぱり文章の中で結局まとめて文章が言えないと、発音自体は向上していることにはならないので、練習をする時点で、できるだけ文章でその説明するというか、その文章で練習をする癖をつける。だからそれこそ if とか going とか her とか、その単独の音だけを、フォーカスしてやるんじゃなくて、まずは文章全体でぜひやってみましょうということですね。本当にそれは really makes sense.
Okay. Alright. The next one is imitating.
Wow.
Okay. Imitating means that whenever you're trying to improve your pronunciation, you have to listen to somebody who has good pronunciation and then try to do exactly what they are doing.
Right.
I know you have experience with this. I know everybody has experience with this. You find someone that you like, you find someone whose pronunciation you like, and you try your best to imitate them, right?
Right. Of course, right.
Now, one thing that's always going to happen is that you're doing your best to imitate somebody. Yeah? You're doing your best to imitate them, but there's always going to be something in the way that, like if you want to sound like a native speaker, there's always something about the way that native speakers speak that you are actually not hearing. Right? So you are trying your best to imitate them, but from a native speaker's point of view, you're missing something, right? But I don't really think that's your fault. Because again, we were talking about this when we're doing the vowels, we were talking about this when we're doing L's and R's, but your ears are not trained. Your ears don't know how to hear these sounds yet. So even if you try to imitate something perfectly, you can't, right? Imagine, for example, since you're we actually often bring up the example of music here, right? But imagine with music, say for example that there's a guy who plays the guitar very well, and he's going to play like a riff or something, okay? And you want to imitate that, right?
Right.
If the guy has been playing, like, let's say the guy is like 60 and he's been playing for 40 years, right? Okay. And he plays this awesome riff. Now you try to imitate that. Are you going to be able to pick up everything he did in one try? I don't think so, right? He's going to have some really fancy stuff in there that you don't know how to do. Or maybe he has some fancy stuff in there that you can't even hear the first time, right?
Right.
It's very similar to that, I think. Right? So if you can't do it perfectly, it's not your fault. Right? It's very important. You can't get it because you're not hearing it. You can't get it because, for example, you have been listening to Japanese all your life, and English has sounds that you're not used to.
Right.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? But what you need to do is you need to
get used to it first.
You need to get used to it, and you also need somebody to tell you what you're getting wrong. Right? And you know, if you happen to have a native speaker as your friend, that's great.
Right.
Maybe you don't, and you have to take private lessons with a native speaker. Or you know, maybe becoming like a native speaker isn't one of your goals, and in that case, you don't have to worry about it. But if you can't get it perfect, it's not your fault, and you have to have someone tell you what's wrong. And even if they tell you what's wrong, you might not hear it at the beginning, right?
Right.
But you have to keep trying.
Right.
You have to keep trying.
Yeah, even though we still have a long way to go to be able to speak English. Yeah, we should keep moving on.
Right.
Yeah. Right. That's the point.
Yeah. So often you're going to have that situation where you know, you keep trying for like a week to get this one sound and you can't. I think that's perfectly okay. I think you just have to keep practicing. It's because you don't know that sound, and yeah, you should just keep practicing until you get it. And that's true for everybody, right? And like I said, these sounds don't exist in Japanese. So if you're coming from a Japanese background and you can't imitate native speaker, you know, that's completely normal. Don't sweat it too much.
Yeah, right. That's the point. The more we practice, the more better we're gonna be, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
The more you practice, the better you'll get.
Right. 今ちょうどその大室さんが言ってくれたことっていうのは結局なんて言うんだろう。僕たちは日本語で今まで生活をしてきて、それで第二言語として英語を今習得しようとしてると。で、その中で結局だから聞き逃したりうまく発音ができないとかっていうのは別にそのなんか僕たちが能力的に何か足りないとか何か間違ってるとかではなくて、単純に経験の差でしかないので、そのやっぱりなるべくそのネイティブスピーカーのさっき大間さんが言ってたその you just happen to have a native speaker を友達としてこう持ってたりとか、あとは個人レッスンとかいろいろ英語を使う機会とかっていうのはもちろんあればいいけれども、なくても練習はしっかりできるし、結局その経験を重ねていくことで必ず向上していくものだから、しっかりその辺の、練習ですよね、をしっかり やっていこうということですよね、小野さん。Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's one last thing I want to talk about today, and these are the 4 skills.
Okay.
Okay. When I say 4 skills, I'm not talking about the listening, reading, speaking, writing. I'm not talking about those.
Right.
Okay. I'm actually talking about these 4 skills. So over the last 6 months or so, I have basically come to the conclusion that these are the 4 skills you need in order to hold a conversation in English. Okay? To hold a conversation. Right?
Okay.
This is not this. You don't need these skills if you're going to just read or write. You don't need some of these. You also don't need these if all you're going to do is take tests or something. Right? But if your goal is to be able to hold a conversation, then you need these 4 skills.
Okay.
Okay. Conversation. Okay. And the first one is vocabulary. Vocabulary just means you have to have enough words in your word bank so that first of all you can describe what you want to say.
Right.
And second of all, you have to be able to understand when someone else says something. Right. So if someone says that they are running quickly, or if they say they're moving rapidly, or they just say they're going fast, pretty much mean the same thing. But you have to know those 3 words in order to understand.
Right.
So whichever one the other person happens to use, you have to be able to understand. So you have to have a certain amount of vocabulary.
Right.
Most people don't use college-level vocabulary in everyday speech.
Right.
I would say that if your vocabulary is, I don't know, even high, upper elementary school level vocabulary, then you can hold a decent conversation. Most conversations will have pretty much, I would say, I don't know, good 80 to 90% of the words are going to be 1 to 2 syllables. Yeah, maybe some will be 3. And then you use long words when you want to illustrate a point.
Like approximately or...
Right, when you have something important to say, then you might use a long word. Right now I use the word illustrate instead of to say show. Yeah, because that was something I wanted to say. I wanted to say to illustrate a point. Right. So you use a big word when you really have something to say.
Oh, right.
I think we talked about this recently, but if you use big words all over the place, then it's too much to listen to.
Right.
It's like a person who wears a ring on all 10 fingers. It's just too much. Right. I'm sorry if you do that. Some people might, and no offense, but
right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sometimes you do it on purpose, though. Sometimes, right? Sometimes you're writing a novel and you're creating some character who is supposed to be crazy and talks with big words all the time. That can be done for effect. But in everyday conversation, you don't want to do that.
Right.
The point is to be understood.
Right.
And the point is to be pleasant to listen to, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let me explain.
Yeah.
This is very, very important. 今、大室さんがそのボキャブラリー、会話の中でのボキャブラリーって言ってたのは、結局、目的がお互いに理解をすることだから、別にすごく難しい、それこそビッグワードとか、そういうね、その難しい言葉を使うこと、時に何か、その特定のこととか、すごいこれって言いたい時とかが、あればそれを使うことはあるけれども、基本的には、英語の会話の中ではシンプルな言葉をお互いに理解できるように使っていくものなので、そんな難しい言葉が必要とかではなくて、ただ、ある程度会話を続けていくためには、ある程度のボキャブラリーがやっぱり必要だよねっていうところですね。Okay. That's very important. Okay, so, 大村さん、what's next?
All right, so next is grammar, and I put parentheses expressiveness. This includes everything from being able to make your sentences using correct grammar to knowing some neat expressions like idioms and things like that. You need this both to speak effectively because you want to not sound boring. And the other is when someone else says something, you have to be able to understand it. And then the next one here on this list is pronunciation. It's what we've been talking about for 6 months here.
Right.
Right. You just need enough so that the other party can understand you. Okay. And then the last one here is anticipation.
Anticipation.
What's anticipation?
In Japanese?
Well, I mean, why am I saying this?
Why? Why means so we've got to anticipate and expect what that person in front of us is going to say.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
So if you if you ask a question that the answer is going to be yes or no or maybe, you can expect an answer that's going to be yes or no or maybe sometimes, usually, something like that. Right? So you can narrow down. It'll help you with your listening because the other person is probably not going to talk about something else. They're usually going to say one of those words. Okay? And that will help you anticipate. If you ask for someone's name, and they will usually answer something that sounds like a name. Right. So if you say, what's your name? And they say Joe or Karen or something like that, it's easy to hear.
Right.
Right. If you ask for someone's age, you say, how old are you? And they give you a number, you're going to be ready for that, right? Right. It's what's hard though is when you say how old are they, say like as old as that tree or something.
Right. We can't imagine.
Right, that's hard to anticipate. But the anticipation though does help you with your listening because it helps you prepare for what they might say.
Right.
Now the reason I bring up these 4 skills though is that it's very, very important to be able to do these 4 without thinking.
Right.いや、これ非常に今むちゃくちゃ大事な話だと思いますよ。なんか個人的に今日のハンガウト熱いですね、むちゃくちゃ。結構大事だと思います。結構大事。
The reason you have to be able to do this without thinking is because when you're speaking, you have to be able to concentrate on what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And we want to be comfortable in the conversation.
Yeah, so if you are concentrating on pronunciation or you're concentrating on words, it's going to be hard to think about what's being said.
Right. Too many things.
I think when you're speaking, like, Japanese people who are listening to this show, when you're having a conversation in Japanese, you're not thinking about grammar.
Sure.
Right? It just happens. You're not thinking about pronunciation, it happens. You're not thinking about anticipation, it happens.
Right.
Vocabulary, sometimes you have to think, oh, what was that word? But still, most of the time, most of the words that happen in everyday conversation just happens.
Right.
Yeah. So you don't really have to think about these.
Right.
And it's a very important thing, I think. You have to get these 4 skills without having to think about them.
Right. That's the point, and that's the bottom line. Right.
I'm not saying it's easy. It's, it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
But understand, though, that once you get these, you should be able to hold a conversation. Right.
Right.
Or you should be able to focus on your content.
Right.
Focus on what's being said.
And finally,
And finally, again, this is path of least resistance. Yeah, this is by far the most important thing.
Right.
English was it's a language, so it's made by people. Right.
Sure.
Made by people. It was made to be easy to say, easy to remember, easy to speak.
Right.
Because it's a tool. People don't intentionally make languages hard to use.
Never.
No. Right. So that's that's really what I've got to say about English. This is the last thing on my list today, but just remember that language was designed to be a tool.
Right. By people, for people.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's going to be, I mean, there's obviously, over the years, things happen that kind of feel weird, but, you know, generally it's easy to use, and that's the idea. It's, if you can't, you know, you might think it's different than your language, which is okay. Your language probably has its own set of rules. Your stuff might be different from somebody else's stuff, and that's okay. But English itself was designed this way for a reason. So if you can get used to it, then you should be able to pick it up. That's what I believe.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I was moved by words. Yeah, that you said. Yeah. I really think so.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Cool.
今、大室さんが言ってたのは、その言葉っていうのは人間によって作られたもの。だから、話しにくいわけがない。言いにくいわけがない。使いにくいわけがない。だから、しっかり、今日の、何回も僕らが言ってる get used to it。慣れるっていうことはね、まずは慣れること、回数を重ねて、そこを、それこそセカンドネイチャー、ね、こう、無意識にできるようになるために必要なことっていうのは、僕も何回も言ってるけど、all it takes is a just little getting used to。本当にもう、すべては慣れ。all it takes is a little getting used to っていうのは、すごく僕も何回も言ってきた言葉だし、実際そうなんだなと、大室さんとね、こうやって話すことで、実際にそういうふうに、なんというか、確信を持てたというか、非常になんか感動しましたよ、僕最後。I was moved.
Thank you.
That's good.
I'm sorry for my bad voice today.
No, are you okay? Okay.
Yeah, I should be better soon.
Yeah. Take good care.
Yep. So, for all the small lessons that we've done so far, go back and listen to the old YouTube videos and.
Right. そう、後でね、たくさんいろいろあるので。And we got one comment on Twitter, and you said muscle memory.
Muscle, right?
Muscle memory. So what's that? Could you go over it again?
Muscle memory is like when the muscles sort of remember how to move. Right. For example, if I asked you to play chords on a guitar, you don't think about it. Your fingers remember how to do that, right? The same thing. Yeah, it's muscle memory. Your muscles remember. I mean, technically your brain remembers, but you know, you call it muscle memory. Like, for example, how do you type your name on your keyboard? It's muscle memory. You don't think about it. Your fingers remember how to type your name. It's the same thing. It's muscle memory.
もう体が、なんか日本語で言うところやっぱそうか、体の記憶というか、体が覚えてるというか。
That's right, yeah.
なんか、そんな感じですよね。結局その発音とか喋ることとか、ね、さっきそのボキャブラリーとかグラマーとか出てきてたけど、結局喋りながら、そのなんかこう、グラマーを考えながら喋るとかっていうところではまだまだマッスルメモリーじゃないし、なんだろう、それはすごく負荷がかかることだから、そういうところを早くクリアしていく、ね、乗り越えていくっていうことがすごく大事なのかなと思っております。 Okay.
All right. Well,
We've done. Wow. Thanks so much. Thanks for sharing your ideas.
yes.
And this should be very helpful and useful for Japanese people.
Yep.
Very, yeah, impressive.
All right. Thank you.
So, what we're gonna cover, what we're gonna do on the next English Hangout.
Right. So
we should talk about,
right.
we should decide on.
Yeah. Well, as we were saying before, we were originally going to talk about critical thinking.
Right.
Right. And I still want to go that route. One thing we haven't decided is if I'm going to continue speaking English during those episodes. But personally, I like this. Right? And as long as people are willing to listen, and as long as you're willing to, sometimes step in and explain things in Japanese, I think that'll work.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I think we should talk about critical thinking.
Right.
It'll help us just look at things in a different way.
Right. I want to create an opportunity to be exposed to English, and so I wanted to create a place where we can think in English.
In English, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is actually something okay. So often we're thinking about learning English. We learn English. But really, rather than learn English, it's actually better to learn something using English.
Right.
Most people, for example, from other countries, Japan is an interesting country because you can go from very elementary education all the way up to very high levels of university, all in Japanese. But imagine if you lived in, I don't know, like the Philippines or something like that, where once you are past high school, the only way to get a very high education is to learn English and go to a country where they have that kind of education.
Right.
This is why Filipinos learn English. They have to in order to get good education, right?
It's no other way.
Yeah, in Japan, Japan's education is too good. That ironically, you don't need English, right? So that's the thing. If you learn English in order to learn something else, that's going to be nice. So I think discussing something in English is going to be very good.
Right.
So we should definitely do that.
Yeah, that's what I want to create. いい。今、大野さんが言ったのは、日本国内っていうのはもう日本語だけで完結してしまう、高いレベルの教育まで日本語だけで受け入れてしまうことが逆に皮肉なことに僕たちを英語で何かを学ぶ、英語で何かを考えるっていう機会をちょっと奪ってしまっていることでもあるので、何かそういう機会をちょっと2人で作っていこうと。具体的にはまだちょっと決めてないですけど、Yeah, we should figure out the way.
I think it's going to be fun. Yep.
っていう感じですかね。
Yeah.
今日は。Yeah, we've done.
Yeah. Well, we've gone almost 90 minutes.
Right.
So,
yeah, thanks to you. Yeah. Today's English Hangout 101 is my favorite.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
すごい、僕自身勇気づけられた感じもするし、見てる人もね、今日のはなかなかすごくインタレスティングだったと思います。海外からも見てくれてる人とかいたそうで。
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for listening and watching.
And do you have do you have something or anything to say for viewers or?
Yeah, that's what I actually covered at the end is remember the language is made by people. It's supposed to be a tool, so try to figure out how to use it correctly. That's probably what you want to do. Yeah.
Wow. いいですね。本当にだから言語っていうのはね、日本じゃなくて人間がそもそも作ったもので、僕たち人間が人間のために作ったものなので、どういうふうに使われてるかっていうものを学んで、僕たちのもうセカンドネイチャーにしていくことが一番近道なんじゃないかということですね。いや、本当に大野さん、半年間、over the last 6 months、本当にありがとうございました。いろいろ。
Thank you very much.
多分ね、これ見て、なんか、英語の発音ってこういうことなのかって分かった人とか多分すごくいると思うんですよね。だから、ね、簡単な道ではないけれども、正しくしっかりやっていけば必ず向上するもんだと思うし、ね、
And then I think if we, like for example, this time I thought of some of these things were new, like the rhythm and things like that. It's just stuff I thought of over the last. I mean, this stuff I didn't even have 6 months ago. During these 6 months, I came up with these. So there's a chance that I'll think of new stuff sometime as well. And when that happens, maybe we can just have a special episode where we just talk about some new.
Right. Yeah. We should do this again.
Yep.
Yep. まあ発音の回はね、別に今日で最後にしなくても、また何か質問がたまったりとか、大事なことがあればまたスペシャルバージョンとしてやるので、ぜひ何でも質問なり何なりいただければと思います。で、僕たちもなんかこう大事なことが思いついたら、いつでもなんか特別編やるかもわかんないので、またぜひ楽しみにしていてください。ということで、そう、さっき大村さんとも言ってたけど、クリティカルシンキング、なんだ、日本語でクリティカルシンキングっていうのが、こう、なんというかこう、論理的に、ロジカルに物事を考えて、どうやってその解決の糸口を見つけるかとか、ただ英語を学ぶんじゃなくて、英語で何かをちょっとこう解決する機会っていうのをなんか、大室さんと二人でやろうって言ってるので、またちょっとそれも楽しみにしておいてください。じゃあ、こんな感じかな、今日は。いや、本当に、大室さんありがとうございました。
Yep, thank you. And thank you everybody for listening and watching. We'll see you guys again.
Yeah, next month. ということで、本当にありがとうございました、皆さん。台風の中、ね、そして連休の最後の日に見ていただいてありがとうございました。またこれいつでも見れるので、またぜひいつでも時間があるときに見てください。ではでは、皆さんおやすみなさい。そして良い週明けをお迎えください。And 大室さん、thank you so much. Thanks for being here.